Good evening, Oklahoma. Welcome once again. We're in the Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite Studios. You're watching hashtag Let the People Decide. I'm Moto. I'm going to be your host for this evening, and it's going to be a great show. The word on everybody's mind is impeachment, so we're going to talk about the entanglements between Ukraine and the Biden family. We're going to clear up some fuzzy spots with this Oklahoma Young Republicans convention that happened the Friday before last. Before we're done, we're going to talk about big tech and censorship of conservatives and the right. We're experiencing that heavily at Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite. Right now, we're being throttled severely. So we can't do this without you. If you guys could please go find a couple of posts on the page that you like, share them onto your page. Go tell someone about our website, OklahomaTaxpayersUnite.com. Go to the website yourself. There you can find the OTU store. You can find all of our great products. We've got the Active Duty RX, Clarity and Focus. I take it every day that we're filming. We've got great t-shirts. Our Moms Demand 2A t-shirts are selling like hotcakes, and everything that you buy there helps support the broadcasts and the work that we do here. Also, please go to the Patreon. Thank you so much to our patrons at www.patreon.com/OTUmedia. You can sign up to be a monthly contributor for OTU and OTU Media. You can sign up for as little as $1 a month, and it does help. But if you're a small business or you're interested in having a show or a podcast of your own, definitely take a look at some of those. You're going to be interested. Find us on YouTube, subscribe, click the bell. We're also on Facebook, and we will be back after this. Don't go anywhere.
Drives a truck.
Visit cdluniversity.org.
At CDL University, and another success, and another success. Another one drives a truck. Hey, gonna help you too. Another one drives a
Dear Miller, CDL University. For some of you, it's already too late. You're standing over in a dirt field, waiting in line to back a truck, and it's been 3 weeks now. If you're going to do this, do it right. Come to CDL University. Get your CDL.
All right, guys, welcome back. And as I mentioned before the break, we are experiencing heavy throttling and severe censorship on Facebook from big tech here at Oklahoma Taxpayers Unite. Somebody has alerted them that conservatism lives here. So please share this, like this, comment, send it in a private message to your friends. We're not going to be able to keep getting the word out without you. So tonight, we're going to talk about venture capitalism, capital investment, coupling that with big government picking winners and losers. Plus, we've got foreign governments that also have their hands deep inside of these different transactions and agreements and deals that have happened. So I'm going to start out kind of chronologically with a group called Paradigm. Now, this was an investment fund that was run by James, that's Joe Biden's brother, and Hunter, Joe Biden's son, Biden. and things were not going well for Paradigm. A number of different partners were getting caught up in fraud charges, and interestingly enough, even the building that Paradigm was renting their office space from turned out to be a money laundering front for the Iranian government to avoid U.S. sanctions. Now, Paradigm and James Biden and Hunter Biden were not connected to the landlords and said that they were completely unaware of the landlord's relationship with the Iranian government. But before we delve deeply into the Biden's involvement in all of this, we're going to mention the fact that John Kerry, his stepson, Christopher Hines, is going to be looped into all of this. And also, for those of you that were not aware, the best man at the wedding of John Kerry's daughter, Vanessa, happened to be the son of an Iranian diplomat, John Kerry's counterpart during the Iran nuclear deal negotiations. So, when we see the John Kerry clan and the Biden family reconvulging at multiple junctures down as we go down this rabbit hole, it's reasonable to presume that the Bidens were not only aware but involved in everything that was going on, not only with the Iranian government, but the different financial schemes and scandals that we're going to now try to unpackage for you. So, as Paradigm is a sinking ship in 2009, whenever Joe Biden was sworn in as the vice president, January 20th, of course, finally, James and Hunter filing for voluntary liquidation in 2010 to divest all of these assets that were in the fund. Simultaneously to that, Hunter Biden co-founds his second investment company called Rosemont Seneca, and does so with a guy who was also, again, connected to John Kerry in a fundraising capacity, a guy named Devin Archer, and we're going to hear about him a little more later. But Christopher Hines, the stepson of John Kerry and heir to the Hines ketchup fortune, is a partner with Hunter Biden at Rosemont Seneca. So, once again, tying the Kerrys and the Bidens to a capital investment firm or firms that we're going to see perpetrate massive capital fraud and pay-for-play schemes in two different countries, just in this segment that we're going to talk about here. So we're going to lay the framework for how Hunter Biden got involved in what's happening in Ukraine in the first place, but we have to start at the beginning, and that is with Rosemont Seneca. Now, even though Rosemont Seneca was small and new, they very quickly procured audiences with high-level Chinese officials and bankers, which essentially are the same thing in communist China. So this is where the pay-for-play through Hunter Biden starts to take effect in this capital investment process that they're going to again use in Ukraine later on in 2014. But in 2013, after very quickly establishing good relationships with several of these Chinese investors, Hunter and Devin Archer start talking to a guy named Jonathan Lee of Bohai Capital. And together they make an agreement to form a new capital investment firm called BHR Partners. Now, it was very sloppy of Hunter and Joe Biden to allow what happened next to occur in especially a public venue, but Hunter arranges for his new partner in BHR, Jonathan Lee, to meet and shake hands with, at the time, Vice President Joe Biden in the lobby of the hotel that the U.S. delegation was staying in during a trip that they took in December. In fact, Hunter flew to China with his father on Air Force Two for that trip. So just 2 short weeks after this hotel lobby meeting between Jonathan Lee and Vice President Joe Biden, the Bank of China, the Chinese government, decides to give $1.5 billion to BHR Partners. So they essentially invested $1.5 billion from the Bank of China into a company that they co-owned with the son of U.S. Vice President Joe Biden, who was openly arranging meetings between a vice president and his business partner at BHR, Jonathan Lee. So that is the first time that there's $1 billion+ put through Hunter Biden's hands via a capital investment firm. So that is that's the portion that deals with China. Now, I don't have any more analysis or information about the $1.5 billion or BHR. The entire governmental and financial structure in China is purely currency manipulation and nationalized currency control and state consolidated wealth. So that is why petro yuan, or using the Chinese dollar as a universal currency, is not an attractive prospect for anyone in the world, because it's not a stable or dependable currency. And if we in the United States keep treating our business like this and have officials at very high levels who are willing to skirt and subvert the laws of this country, our financial system will also become a crony capitalistic monster, and no one will want to vest their wealth in the U.S. economy either. So we are going to take a quick break, and whenever we get back, we are going to fast forward to February of 2014 and the start of this Ukrainian impeachment fever debacle, and why this is actually 5D chess from President Trump shining a light on the corruption and scandal of the Biden crime family. So we'll see you in a minute.
Hello, basket of deplorables, ladies, gentlemen, those who are undecided. Todd Tucker back at the bunker, where I belong. And we want you to join us here at OTUmedia. Become a patron, a Patreon member. If you want true conservative messaging and not the same old corporate filtered news of Oklahoma, this is the place to be. Become a supporter, a soldier, a sergeant, a co-producer, even a sponsor. True conservatism lives here at OTUmedia. Go to patreon.com/OTUmedia, patreon.com/OTUmedia. This is where conservatism lives, and the fight is just beginning.
Introducing All new, safe, natural relief. A cannabinoid-rich, clarity and focus formula with 17 essential supplements. When it matters most, you've got a job to do. Anxiety isn't an option. Programmed to keep you moving. A product exclusively manufactured for Active Duty RX by Cantech Labs.
All right, guys, I'm going to hammer this hard. We need you in the fight. Go to the Patreon, www.patreon.com/OTUmedia. You are not going to get conservative news and views without a corporate filter on it anywhere else. All right, let's get right back to it. We are talking about the media firestorm and the Democrat Party obstruction emanating from this phone call between President Trump and the leader of Ukraine. Now, this is a masterful move, once again, by our King Daddy Troll in Chief. There's nobody else as proficient at trolling the left as our great president, President Donald J. Trump. What he has put in the headlines is Ukraine, Biden, scandal, impeachment. So in 2014, whenever Russia, they say invaded Crimea, but truthfully it's annexed the Crimea, because telling you honestly, the entire civil conflict in Ukraine is a creation of the Western power bloc, where we have once again supported a separatist movement and propped up a rightful leader like we were trying to do with this Guaido character in Venezuela. It just was much more effective in Ukraine. But eastern Ukraine is solidly pro-Russia. And in Crimea, they actually even held elections and decided to stay on the Russian currency. So they annexed Crimea. And President, at the time, Barack Obama, tapped Joe Biden as the point man to go in and deal with this Ukrainian situation. One of the chief concerns was stabilizing their economy in Western Ukraine, essentially. So, again, John Kerry and Joe Biden, via their sons, come up with this grand plan to, from the IMF, loan Ukraine $1.8 billion in an investment initiative for their natural gas sector and their energy market. So in March of 2014, Devin Archer, again, a partner at Rosemont Seneca, the capital investment firm with Hunter Biden and Christopher Hines, John Kerry's stepson, goes to meet with Vice President Biden at the White House. Now, shortly after that, just 5 days later, this $1.8 billion gets transferred to a private bank, the largest private bank in Ukraine, for the benefit of a company called Burisma. And Burisma was the largest natural gas company in Ukraine, founded by a guy named Mykola Zlochevsky, who at the time was having his assets frozen by the United Kingdom for dishonest business practice, malicious business practices. But this Mikolo guy is actually just a puppet for the big player in this organized crime cabal block party between the Bidens, the Kerrys, and this guy named Ihor Kolomowski, who owns the largest private bank, or did own the largest private bank in Ukraine at the time. Now, these scandals completely destabilized the financial system in Ukraine, and they had to nationalize the private bank. But that was in December of 2016, so that is after everything that we're talking about here. Now, the day after this $1.8 billion is put into private bank, Devon Archer is named to the board of Burisma, this natural gas giant in Ukraine. So that was the next day, the day after this $1.8 billion. So suffices to say that Devon Archer and Rosemont Seneca, the company, the firm of Christopher Hines and Hunter Biden, the sons of John Kerry and Vice President Joe Biden, it was a package deal. It all came together. You get the $1.8 billion, and you put Devon on the board the next day. Easy. And then 3 weeks later, actually, Hunter Biden is also put on the board of Burisma. And we're going to watch a video here in a minute from Glenn Beck on Blaze TV breaking this down. You're going to get to see some pictures and some visuals, but I'm just giving you kind of a more in-depth look at what is going to be on the board that Glenn Beck is laying out for you. So this money gets put into this private bank for the benefit of Burisma, and it's an investment initiative. So eventually what ends up happening is there's a bunch of companies that are going to vest with this bank and disperse in some different investment. They call them investment products, but they're stocks, bonds, commodities, whatever it might be. I would assume the idea of which, or the pitch, is to help like decentralize the assets of the major players in the Ukrainian economy so that it's not so vulnerable to domestic issues like a civil war or proxy war that we're calling a civil war. I digress. So via Burisma, this $1.8 billion goes into the bank, this private bank account in Cyprus. And so the banking laws are very lax. And through a series of defrauding the several companies that were connected to private bank, they basically supplanted the 1.8. I think supplant is the correct technical term. I could be wrong on that, but they basically supplanted the $1.8 billion that John Kerry and Joe Biden got via the IMF through capital investment fraud and essentially naked short selling, because the investment products that were supposed to decentralize Ukraine's economy were used as the collateral for the loan from private bank for these companies to buy those investment products in the first place. Well, after the loans got made and the $1.8 billion got sent to this private bank account in Cyprus to pay for these investment products, the foreign suppliers of these products just never followed through and filled the orders. So then these companies are left with the loan and without the collateral, which is promised up already in the first place in return for the loan, and this money is now already gone to an offshore bank account that is reminiscent of something from Hollywood movie. So, and it's illegal. Naked short selling is basically where you sell a contract that you do not have already or have not verified that you can borrow before it's in hand or guaranteed. And so that's exactly what happened was, and then the courts in Ukraine covered for the bank and covered for this Kolomoisky guy who is apparently a bad Leroy Brown and done all kinds of bad things to bad people. But now he's living in exile in the United States. And again, Ukraine had to nationalize this bank. So he really nailed it from both ends and then made him buy the bank, essentially. So really what Trump has done is he has directed everyone's attention to what in the heck Joe Biden and his son have to do with Ukraine and this natural gas company that procured a $1.8 billion loan from taxpayers. So, all right, we're going to take another break. I know that this is a lot to digest, but that's why we've got Glenn Beck coming up. He's going to give you a breakdown of the second portion of what we talked about, not the involvement with the Chinese firms or Bohai or Thornton Group or anything, but just the Ukrainian portion. So, all right, let's see what Glenn's got to say.
All started in February of 2014 when Russia invaded Crimea. Do you remember this time? It was 2014. President Obama was president, and he decided to make Joe Biden his point man for the Ukraine, which really meant that Biden would be on the phone with Ukrainian leaders 2 or 3 times a month, and then he flew to Ukraine and he visited 5 times. So he's talking to these guys all the time between 2014 and 2017. In fact, Foreign Policy magazine says no one in the U.S. government has wielded more influence over Ukraine than Vice President Joe Biden. Now, that's true. Now, just a month after this happens, this guy, remember him? He's the friend. He's the guy who is part of this investment house. 1 month later, there is a meeting with Joe Biden and this guy at the White House. Now, we don't know what the partner at Rosemont Seneca was doing at the White House and what they were meeting about. But I'm sure it was probably something just like cookies and had nothing to do with anything about the Ukraine. However, coincidentally, 5 days later, we had an event. 5 days later, Joe Biden arrives at the Ukraine to meet with all of the leaders. Now, this is a high-level meeting with Ukrainian officials, and he brought with him very specific plans. And these plans were going to guarantee and assist the Ukrainian natural gas industry with $1.8 billion. Now, this was something that would guarantee the stability of the Ukraine and help them with their energy. Part of the energy portion of the program reads, quote, U.S. technical experts will help Ukraine develop a public-private investment initiative to increase conventional gas production from existing fields to boost domestic energy supply. Well, you know what's weird is we had 5 days later the $1.8 billion. But what's really weird is we sent the experts in as well. Because do you remember Burisma, owned by this cat who's so bad he can't even come to America? Burisma, again, is the largest natural gas company. So they wanted a piece of the $1.8 billion, sure, but they needed some experts on how to figure out how to get that gas out of the ground. And so who is invited in? This guy, Hunter. Hunter, no, I'm sorry, this is Devon. Devon is made a board member. Isn't that great? By the way, that happened the very next day after the $1.8 billion. Now, just 3 weeks later, somebody else, another expert from the United States arrives, to help them figure out how to pull gas out of the ground. Hunter Biden. Now, the combined experience on gas between these two is 0. But he was on the board, and he's still on the board. Burisma announced these appointments publicly. U.S. media reported on it, but it's no secret. Nobody really cared because it's the Obama White House and they can do no wrong. But there was a pattern here with Biden, and whether it's meetings with foreign leaders in Washington or traveling to foreign capitals, business opportunities and deals magically materialize for Hunter's companies. Isn't that weird? And just what kind of company was Hunter Biden and Devon Archer joining with this one? Well, Burisma, if I may say, was described by a journalist, James Stafford, who covers the energy industry. He said, quote, Burisma fails to pass the most basic due diligence check. Its registration documents are impossible to run down. It publishes no asset information or financial records, nor does it release any audited financial statements. The complete lack of transparency means that anyone interested, including potential investors, must rely solely on press releases about Burisma's future plans and intentions. In other words, it's exactly what you would think a very dangerous oligarch would set up. Now, Hunter Biden and Devon Archer joined Burisma, the board, coincidentally, right before the British government decided to freeze the assets of this guy. $23 million. He was the founder of Burisma. So they froze it. Now, 9 months later, the British government finally gave up and unfroze the accounts because they couldn't get the Iranian prosecutors to even cooperate. Gee, I wonder why. Now, after Hunter Biden joined the board, the company's owner, remember this guy? You know what's crazy? He was suddenly off the no entry to the U.S. ban. He could get visas all he wants. He could come to the United States. Those all disappeared. He became, Captain America. He's fine. The visas disappeared, but there was something else that disappeared. Oh, yeah. The $1.8 billion loan. Where did it go? Well, that's the sticky wicket here. As the United States paid it, but we had to put it in to a bank. And, well, we had to put it into the biggest bank in the Ukraine. And so we did. It's owned by this guy.
Introducing all new, safe, natural relief. A cannabinoid-rich, clarity and focus formula with 17 essential supplements. When it matters most, you've got a job to do. Anxiety isn't an option. Programmed to keep you moving. A product exclusively manufactured for Active Duty RX by Cantech Labs.
Hey everybody, Todd Tucker here, and everyone who knows me knows I love to read a great book, and right now I'm reading this incredible novel by local author Richard Engel. All you have to do is go to LastAmericanPresident.com and say big right now in this book. The Last American President is a story about political intrigue, romance, betrayal set against the backdrop of the dissolution of the United States of America. It's great reading, and when you go to LastAmericanPresident.com, LastAmericanPresident.com, use the promo code OTU, you're going to save money. And not only that, but half the price comes back to OTU. So half the proceeds from this book come back so you can watch great programming like you see on the OTU Media Network every day. Last LastAmericanPresident.com. I highly recommend this book. Read it today.
Republicans convention was that some of my friends had told me that people who were former Democrats had registered as Republicans and were trying to import rules and ideas and different ways of doing things into the young Republicans. Now, I got to first state a few things. I am biased, just like everybody else, just like you. I am biased. I have my own judgments. Sometimes my judgments aren't founded on anything. Sometimes they are correct. Sometimes my gut is absolutely right. In this case, the idea was that I think one of the weaknesses of the Republican Party is its inability to stay current with culture. And because it has not and is unable to stay current with culture, I think it's especially susceptible to attacks from people who are trying to push the cultural envelope to change things from the inside out. And by that I mean people who aren't really interested in the ideas. What they're interested more so is in the cultural changes. And in this case, it's the LGBTQ plus AAIP LMFAO movement, where people are trying to they were trying to change the sexual harassment rules, where you could not, as I understand it, you could not discriminate against people who were transgendered. And if you walk that dog out, let's say that you, who are a woman, identify as a man, and you go to a Young Republicans meeting and everyone calls you a woman, and you would say, no, you're misgendering me. Stop misgendering me. Well, that would be sexual harassment. That would be discrimination under, as I understood it, under.
All right, guys, welcome back. Let's talk about this Young Republicans convention that happened Friday before last. I'm going to clear a lot of things up for you guys. I was obviously intimately involved. So to start with, this is, again, a result of the fact that there are factions within the Republican Party who have forgotten what the purpose of government truly is. I know a lot of people, whenever you ask them, like, what's government responsible for? They say, roads and bridges and schools and safety and law enforcement and yada, yada, yada. That's not correct, okay? When somebody asks you what government is intended for, it's preservation of rights, full stop. That's it. And there's a few different reasons for that, reasons that our founding fathers understood. But one of the most philosophically just awe-inspiring reasons is we're still in the jungle, okay? This is still a game of half chance, essentially, in life. So we're all competing with each other. And that's the human condition. And sometimes what benefits me is going to take away from someone else. And that's just the natural way of things. What's not the natural way of things is government getting involved and picking winners and losers, which is what you are doing whenever you insist that government has a role in our personal lives and our pocketbooks. Now, I get criticized a lot of times for going to the extreme when it comes to taxation, because I say, hey, better safe than sorry. Obviously, if I give these people a cookie, they're going to want a glass of milk. So I would rather give them too little and make sure that they keep everything stripped down to its bare essential functions, rather than give them too much and allow that corruption and misappropriation and that complacency to begin to fester, okay? But going directly to this Young Republicans convention, there was a group of people that for weeks on end organized to have representation from counties all over the state, through at least 3 people from any county that we could involve them from, Republicans between the ages of 18 and 40. Promulgating the involvement of said people is supposed to be the goal of the Oklahoma Young Republicans. So The goal of 3 people was to fulfill the 5 votes that was to be allotted to each at-large and chartered county. It says so very plainly in the bylaws. If you're complaining or offering commentary on this convention, please make sure that you have actually read these rules, because they very, very plainly say you take a map of all the counties, you slap a number 5 on each one, and then the ones with chartered clubs get an additional 15. The actual language is at-large and chartered counties shall be allotted 5 base votes. Now, aside from the misinterpretation that John Roberts and the Rhinocrats that are here in Oklahoma County were trying to shove down our throats, that misinterpretation aside, if you find yourself at convention and you care about your organization growing and you're looking around and see 3 people from all these different counties who are Republicans 18 to 40 that want to be involved in the convention, why would you demoralize them by consolidating them all into a single 5 base votes? Which, note that the chartered counties where these people were from, they each got their 5 base votes. They weren't consolidated down into 5 base votes. Chartered counties that had chartered YR clubs got 20 votes. So they're revealing their intentions through the math. So ask yourself, what is more likely? Is it more likely that the grassroots and these young Republicans from counties all over Oklahoma can't read? Or is it more likely that the establishment is up to their old tricks and we once again have rhinos trying to play low post against conservatives in the Republican Party? Now, if you haven't seen the video, we're going to show some of it here of the convention that took place after John Roberts and the people who were in control of the Oklahoma Young Republicans kind of laissez-faire tried to adjourn the convention, but they didn't do so properly. First of all, the motion that got made was to disband convention, and you can tell that came from somebody that's used to spending their time at the Capitol. You know, committees disband, a convention adjourns. So the motion was never made, and there was division called for even on the motion to disband, and that was ignored by the chair, John Roberts, because again, they had already done a physical body count. They knew that they had 4 less people than the grassroots did in the room and that they were going to lose. So the convention was not properly adjourned. The convention goers that had driven from all over the state, some of them 4 or 5 hours to get to Oklahoma City to involve themselves in this organization, females, Hispanic, black conservatives, veterans, business owners, all people that the party claims that we're trying to involve and reach, decided to continue the convention. And we followed the agenda that was set and announced for the convention. We only used delegates that had been credentialed by the initial convention crew. And we carried out the business of convention, elected officers, tabled a motion for a sexual harassment piece that came from national that we're more than willing to consider. It was just there was too much happening. So before you justify blocking out and guarding the Oklahoma Young Republicans from all of these great young conservatives that came from all over the state, consider the optics of that. I mean, the optics alone of trying to take all of those people and misinterpret your own rules and shove them all down into 5 votes is heinous enough. And it's contrary to the stated spirit of the organization, which is to involve young Republicans from all over the state. Now, the previous administration hadn't chartered a new club in Oklahoma in 2 years. And I know why. I was feverishly trying to get involved and had to inject myself into their meetings. No one would answer my phone calls. I wrote a check to the Oklahoma County Young Republicans Club and watched it go uncashed for a month and a half because they didn't even know where to find their bank account. And their previous treasurer, who never kept a ledger apparently of that bank account, has no idea where it is either, and just got tapped as president for that organization and was running for chair of the Oklahoma Young Republicans. So we're not keen on having a rhino, partycrat, never Trumpers leading an organization that's supposed to represent Republicans 18 to 40 in the state of Oklahoma. We had a problem with that. We showed up to convention to air our grievances and have the discussion as Republicans, and we saw once again how the rules and the system was going to be used and abused to shut us up. Not so much this time. Now National's reviewing our convention minutes and our elected officers, and in conversation with your new Oklahoma Young Republicans chair, Luke Harshaw, who did a great job at convention and has been doing a great job since then. So we are anxiously awaiting. At the very least, we're probably looking at another convention, and I think the slate of officers that got elected is in strong position to retain those slots whenever they, if they have to defend them at another status quo convention. So we're shaking it up, guys. Remember, we can't do it without you, so share the video, invite your friends. We were going to cover the media environment, but you guys know what's going on. The Mockingbird mainstream establishment, collaborator, controlled opposition, faux Fox, fake news, and the whole gambit is not for us. And they are indeed against our president, President Donald John Trump. So it is up to us. It's up to the grassroots. It's up to alternative and independent media to get the word out and inform our neighbors, because the corporate filters are not going to allow 4, 5, 9, the Oklahoman, CBS, DNCNN, CBS, any of them, MSN, DNC. None of them are going to be allowed to tell you the truth, but we can do it here. So you guys keep coming back. Thank you for joining us today. This has been hashtag Let the People Decide. I'm Moto, and we will see you on Wednesday with me, myself, and Liberty and Leslie Nesmith.
So the next portion of our agenda tonight, now that we have rules, our elections of officers. We have the first up is state chair. Who is running for state chair? Who has a nomination?
I have a nomination for state chairs.
Okay.
I'd make a motion for a slate.
Second.
Slate of delegates.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
I just made my motion.
Okay, you dropped your motion. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to vote for a slate of candidates. And we got a second over here, so Daniel Mavejas has.
Wouldn't that be a suspension of rules? We already suspended the rules. It's Robert Rules of Order.
Yes. So Daniel Mavejas has made a motion to vote on a slate of candidates, and Molly Johnson has seconded that motion. All in favor of voting for a slate of candidates for the agenda that we have tonight, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, we will vote on a slate. Does anyone have a slate to offer for state chair, state vice chair, national committee man, national committee woman, treasurer?
All right, welcome back, everyone. I'm here in the studio with Molly Johnson, and on the phone is Julia Bender and Hannah Silk. If you two want to say hello to the audience we got right now.
Hi guys, thanks for having us.
Hey everybody.
There's Hannah. So what we're going to talk about in this segment with you all is, what was your perspective on what happened at the convention last night? Starting with what the prior administration, how they were running the meeting, what you saw happen as the sequence of events transpired, and even if you noticed things before the convention happened, if there anything of note, Molly, if you want to start off the conversation, was there anything coming in and getting checked in that you saw that you had in your head? What was that like?
Well, when I first came in, I thought it was odd they didn't have me registered. I wasn't sure if that was intentional or not, but there was a problem with getting me registered. And then I noticed as I was there for a few more minutes, there was a lot of secretive type conversation happening between the chair and other people.
Okay.
And I sensed a lot of tension, and I wasn't sure what was happening, but I did see several people walking up to one another and whispering and showing certain like little pieces of paper, and
Okay.
it just
People
felt weird to me.
that you knew to be part of the leadership, or
Yes.
yes. Okay.
Yes.
And do you know the names of the people? That you
I don't know the names, but I know one in particular was the chairman. He was
John.
John
Roberts.
Roberts. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So Julia or Hannah, either one of you, did you see anything while you were registering or when you came in that you wanted to know?
The only thing that I found interesting was whenever Molly and I were trying to file to run for the separate offices, I, as vice chair, and she is national committee woman, they kind of just like kept sending us around to different people. Yeah. So we never could quite get to the right person, and it took a while.
Hey everybody, Todd Tucker here. Are you tired of Big Mobile making deals with dirty DC politicians to amplify liberals and silence conservatives like you? Do you want the same quality of service that you get from your current provider without supporting leftist, anti-American subversives like Kendra Horn and Nancy Pelosi? Well, Patriot Mobile can help you, and they can make a great deal. Ask what Patriot Mobile can do for you, and ask what Patriot Mobile can do for your country. Call Patriot Mobile today at 877-367-7524. 877-367-7524. Be a patriot. Join Patriot Mobile.